What's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us today for the 1004 show. We're here with Sean Merron, founder of the Early Retirement Roadmap. How old are you now?
I just recently turned 30.
And you're going to retire at how old?
Right now I'm on pace for 35, but doing everything I can to, of course, speed that up.
So you're going to retire at 35. How old are people when they normally retire?
Usually people wait until they're in their 60s to retire, and that was just one thing I was not willing to accept. So a few years
Slashing half
ago,
the life off.
that's right, that's right.
What got you into this world? Are you a financial expert? I mean, what led you to this journey?
Well, so I've always had a knack for finances. I got into my career pretty early at the age of 17 as a software developer. Started making pretty good money, and always been a techie. But at the same time, I've had this interest for learning how to make my money grow. I started trying to trade stocks and things like that really early. Really quick wins. Tried a few gambles, but they never really worked out. And then eventually, I after reading a lot of material and finding some of these other great bloggers online and really crunching the numbers, I was like, you know what? I just can't imagine waiting until I'm in my 60s to retire, and I'm going to figure out how to not have to do that, and while having a normal middle class income too. It's very possible, and once I started crunching those numbers, I figured it out, and I've just been doing everything I can to speed that up.
So you still have a 9 to 5. You still have a day job. You're a software engineer by trade, and you learned how to take that money and put it towards retirement over the last few years, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The good thing is when I started early, I was still putting money into my 401k, not as much as I do now when I max it out every year. But yeah, it's just through normal employment income. I don't have any other income streams, honestly. So it's just taking money, maxing out 401ks, maxing out IRAs, HSAs, and just learning the tax advantages and the power of compound interest. At first it goes a little slow, but then you just see it start speeding up, and I can just do predictions now. I'm like, wow, this is a possibility. Now, I will say at first though, the other reason I really wanted to do this is, you're with Hatch and the startup community, and you've seen me around through that. And as a software developer, I also am an entrepreneur, and I've always had these ideas flowing through my head. And I was like, you know what, I have a family and I got to support them, and we got to pay our expenses. So it's not like I can just get up and quit like some people do and just go for the whole, the startup company and, see how much of those work out. But
Not a lot.
yeah, exactly. And I've been involved with a few startups,
Yep.
From people I've met in the community, and it's been a lot of fun, and we're still working on those. But this is also, I tell people, this is my entrepreneur backup plan, honestly, because once I get to the point where my investments can, passively pay for my expenses for the rest of my life, then I can leave as an employee and I can literally just, all day, every day, whenever I want, work on these ideas that I got in the back of my head.
You currently live in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
I met you start Norfolk 2,
Yeah, I think that's right.
which is a build a company in a weekend competition Hatch used to organize. No longer, we no longer do that. Maybe we'll bring it out of retirement, if you will, at some point. But we were at a position where we had done 5, thousands of people attended, and it was like, hey, you know what? Let's stop this while it's still hot. You wrote a book in the last few months called Early Retirement Roadmap. You can learn about it at earlyretirementroadmap.com. What was putting that together kind of like?
It was a lot easier than I thought it would be. I've heard of people writing books, and I never actually, and I'm not a writer. I really didn't imagine myself ever writing a book, but I guess just when that passion consumes you and you just want to get it all down, and you start writing all these words, eventually it becomes a book. So it worked out for me.
How many words
Now,
is it?
I believe it's over 25,000 words. Yeah. So it started out though as for those that may be familiar in the software developer world, with GitHub. Basically, it was just an open source markdown file. When I was planning for early retirement, I was just putting all my notes out there, and it just kept getting longer and longer. And I was sharing it with the community, the whole financial independence community. And people just kept telling me, hey, you need to monetize this. You got some good stuff here. Because the big problem was a lot of information is all over the internet. Like, I mean, there's some really great blogs out there, but that's a problem. They were all blogs. So there was like literally hundreds of articles you had to read just to get to the value, you know? So there were some books too. But I've never really found a book that again, for me, like was like the whole kit and caboodle. I mean, there's many parts of planning for early retirement. It's not just your investments. It's, you know, cutting expenses, you know, knowing what retirement means to you, and, you know, being able to adjust your lifestyle to figure out the standard of living you could retire in. So there was so much more that was missing. So that's why I just put it all together in one place. And I decided, you know what? All right, let's turn this into a book. Maybe I can help someone else out in the process. And that's what happened.
What tools did you use to put it together?
Microsoft.
Other than GitHub.
Yeah, Microsoft Word, honestly. So I'm a Windows guy, and I remember opening it up, you know, how to write an ebook PDF, and it was just like, you know what, the quickest thing you can literally do is what you already know. You could sit here and, you know, try to write it in, you know, some kind of ebook creator. I don't even know, I forget the names of the ones that are out there.
Or something like that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I think that came up. Yep. And they were like, but, you know, if you want to do any kind of styling or all that stuff, then just go for it. And I just wrote it in Microsoft Word, and the easiest way, like, everybody can open up a PDF, right? I mean, so I just wrote it and kept writing and converted it to a PDF, and I guess I had an ebook.
So what I'm looking at, the ebook at earlyretirementroadmap.com, is all built in Microsoft Word.
That's correct.
Wow, it's impressive.
Oh, thank you.
As I read this a couple of months ago, as you had sent it to me, and I never thought it would have been built in Microsoft Word. So props to Microsoft Word for creating ebooks of the world. What made you go from an ebook to a physical book, or not doing a physical book? You know, I think so many people think, oh, a book is this physical thing where, you know, now you can read things online. What was the kind of story behind that?
So fortunately for me, I have a pretty good network of people ever since coming to start Norfolk and getting involved in the community back in the Hampton Roads that I've met, and have also done information products, and have been able to give me tips on how they have started their companies up. But the biggest thing I remember, and the biggest thing that's really always stuck with me, is, you know, minimizing those startup costs. Because I really, you know, I'm planning for early retirement, so I can't really be spending a whole bunch of money trying on this business to try and, you know, get books made and published that may never sell. So I really wanted to test the market, you know, with the ebook, and also because I felt, you know, the value of the book could, you know, it could easily be read, easily downloaded. You click to buy it, you get it right away. And you know, I could make updates to it as well, being an ebook. Like, if, you know, in the financial industry, we have different IRS laws that change, or other tax codes. So if I need to make certain updates, like, and we see what's going on with health insurance right now, then I can make those changes and give people those free lifetime updates, and also whatever version next, you know, someone buys, it's always going to be the latest.
You know, I never thought of it that way. I never thought of, hey, you know, there's this book, and as things are updated, you can update them, and you can provide them out to people. And, you know, in a physical book, you have to, you know, do a second, third, fourth edition. In this case, you just, you know, go to gumroad.com and update the file.
Right. Exactly.
So you broke this down into a couple of steps. Well, first off, what makes you an expert in this field? Like, how did you decide, like, hey, I can do this?
Yeah. So someone once told me, I guess being an expert is just knowing more than the person you're talking to, which I think any expert would agree with, honestly. But really, it's just because I've done the research, I've crunched my numbers, I'm doing this in my own life. Like, I would never talk about something that, you know, I haven't already tried myself, and that's weird because I'm saying, okay, well, you're talking about early time, but you're not retired early yet. And I talk about that in the beginning of my book because that's a hard thing maybe for people to get over. And it's really because I'm at the point now, like all the steps you've talked about, which we can mention here. Like, I've already taken all those, and I'm at the point now where, you know, I'm on autopilot. You know, I already know what retirement means to me. I figured out what that standard of life is, you know, that we're happy with as a family. And that took changes in our lives, that we had, you know, drastic changes to kind of figure out what that would mean. And as human, we're always kind of chasing the next golden shiny, or, you know, we get something, we get bored, ready for the next thing. And until I lowered my standards, that's when I realized, you know, that's when I really realized what's important to me in life. But then, you know, how to track my money, budgeting, understanding net worth, all my spending, basically overhauling all my expenses, reducing complexity, going through different insurance calculations, and eventually to the point of building savings, paying off all the debt, building up a cash buffer, investing those savings, and then crunching numbers of, okay, cool, I'm investing now. How long is it going to take until this compound interest is going to pay for my expenses? So really I figured all that out already for my life, and everybody's life is different.
Sure.
But I just feel, going through these steps, I just want to help more people realize it's possible, because most people don't even think they can retire early, and they're like, what are you talking about?
Well, and something that we were talking about earlier, and I think actually makes a lot of sense now, is I think the internet is about compound interest, meaning if you start something today, that thing will provide more value over and over again. And in the financial world, obviously compound interest is huge. And so you're kind of giving the roadmap, if you will, or the process that you're doing, and saying, hey, this is where I am today. You're documenting this process, and you're letting people know that, hey, I do plan to retire at 35, and this is how I'm going to do it. I'm showing you now, and as that process changes, I'm going to show you to do it as well. In your mind, if someone is still in debt on certain stuff, should they start taking some of these steps, or should they try and get out of that kind of debt first?
Oh, most definitely. Debt is a killer. I mean, not only are you losing the interest on that debt, you're losing the opportunity cost of investing that money. So you're basically doubling your loss there. So really trying to tackle that debt is really an immediate need in most cases. It's one of the first steps, honestly, before you start investing your money. Now, yes, investing your money is always done better earlier, right? I mean, you put the money earlier, and then over time, it's, if you wish you would have got in earlier, because then it would have grew more. But honestly, the money you're not investing, the money you're losing, is also going up over time the longer you hold on to that debt. So I really suggest people to tackle the debt first, because it just wears on you. And once you realize how much money you can funnel towards that debt, like when you really want something, you do everything you can to achieve it. Like if you really want to pay off that debt, you'll start seeing all this stuff in your room that you can start getting rid of, or what you can downsize in your maybe your car or your house, and to really get rid of that debt and get to start saving and investing that money.
How can one person start becoming frugal? And I think that's, I look at you now as the frugal guy. How can you understand the things that you don't need?
Well, okay. I guess the hardest part at first is letting go. So once you start letting go of a few things, then it gets a little easier, because you can start seeing your savings growing and your debt getting paid off with that money. The big thing, a cool thing to start with, I guess, is what I call a cash stash. This is a cool little trick I used. So I used to have a drum set, and I never played it, but I really wanted to play it. And I played drums in the high school, but I never really was good at drum set, but I wanted to get better at it. And then eventually I realized, it's just sitting there collecting dust. And I had to really go through the house room by room, one area by one area, and just say, hey, have I used this in a year? If I haven't, it's time to go. The cool thing, and what I say is, you can go sell it on Craigslist today, and get the money. And then whatever your current hobby is, like if you have another thing you want to try out, you use the money from an old hobby for the new hobby. And this just gets you into that mindset of, controlling your spending at first, because that's the really hard thing, is we're just spenders. We whenever we're at Walmart, we pick up an extra thing. But it's really when you start realizing the money you already have and trying to redirect that money to fund your current life, it gives you a new perspective on life. But just going back to the drum set real quick, when I sold it, I said, okay, well, cool. If I ever do want to pick up the drums again later, I can go back on Craigslist and find someone selling the drum set for the same price that's 5 years newer or whatever it might be. It's like temporary storage on Craigslist. So
yeah, yeah, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, that's a way to start. That's a simple way, but really, frugal really starts. The biggest thing I see with people is going out, eating out. Entertainment. Those costs add up like crazy. Once you start realizing how much you're spending on, wine and dining all week long, and like $40 for a dinner, and then you go to the grocery store to see what you can get for $40, like, wow. Like, I mean, the kitchen starts a lot, is a good place to start for many people.
And not buying a BMW, which you talk about in the book as well. Talking to Sean Merron, earlyretirementroadmap.com. How much money? So you bought a BMW. You were making a good salary a couple years ago, and you bought a brand new BMW, or close to brand new BMW, which cost how much, and how much do you think you lost in that process?
Sure, yeah. So when I was 17 and got my first job making $40,000 a year, what? I was all excited, which, really now it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it was at 17.
At 17 it does.
Exactly. I had to have a BMW, right? I mean, I had all this money coming in, and I was living at home with my parents, and at the time I was not frugal at all. My parents taught me about money, but they also taught me how to, they also knew that some things I have to learn on my own. It's just that thing, I've been told a million times is to put money away in my 401k, but until I don't do it and see the effects, sometimes it's just never going to change. So, the BMW I bought brand new, $50,000. I think my car payment was around like $800 a month. Living at home, so no big deal, right? Wow. But yeah, that was interesting, and BMWs aren't that cheap to fix after you get out of that warranty either. So I sold it 10 years later. So after said 10 years later basically, and aside from the $50,000, I also got a loan on it. And, I had the huge car payment, so I was paying like close to 10% interest or something. It was crazy because I was so young. And the insurance was really high on that car. It was brand new. I'm 17, or at the time I think I was 18, driving a brand new BMW. The maintenance costs I just talked about. I mean, driving everywhere, and then also the opportunity cost of not investing that money, or not, just buying something a little cheaper and putting that money, like that would be huge right now. So I estimate, at least $100,000 that car cost me, and I'd be that much closer to retirement.
It's crazy. I bought a couple of cars myself, and lots of wasted money in that case. You also are the host of twofrugaldudes.com, a podcast that is starting to get a little bit of traction. Mm-hmm. What was the kind of vision with the podcast, and why'd you start that?
Yeah, and this just kind of happened just talking with friends about money. And you can't always talk to maybe your current network of friends about money. So when you find someone that you can, and you start talking about it, and then you start sharing all these ideas. One of the people that I happened to be with was my co-host Kevin Griffin, and we were like, hey, you know what? We just need to we have great conversations about money. Let's talk to the whole world about it. Yeah. And the cool thing about that is I'm a 9-to-5 employee, but he's a small business owner. But we're both middle class. We're both not making it big or anything, but we both understand finances. Kevin teaches a Financial Peace University class for his church, which Dave Ramsey kind of spearheads in his Financial Peace course. Or it's a very, very common financial planning course out in the Christian community, even non-Christian community. But so he can bring that small business perspective, and I can bring the employee's perspective. So whenever we're talking about planning your money or planning your finances, and we talk about accounting and taxes, we have the two different mentalities coming together and kind of giving their opinions. So it's been a lot of fun. People really enjoy it. We talk about everything, frugal tips. The recent episode we had was talking about how to go through your kitchen and set up a frugal kitchen. We talk about investments very heavily. That's a topic I really enjoy talking about, using low-cost mutual funds with Vanguard, and sticking to the plan, controlling your emotions, and then just talk about just understanding I guess being mindful of your spending and how to declutter your house and start a budget. So all kinds of topics.
I think it's so important that you guys saw a need where it was like, hey, we're talking about these things. Let's have the whole world hear it. Like, how many conversations are lost because it wasn't documented, right? I gave 2 speaking gigs this morning. Nothing, right? Yep. I mean, I should have recorded them. And I always say that. And I'm like, man, like, I missed out this opportunity. And so there's just all this lost opportunity. And it's good to hear that that's how you guys kind of came about and are doing that. What have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned starting a business, kind of because of the ebook and some of the other pieces and products that you've been building?
Yeah, definitely. So the book was kind of written before the audience was built. So that's been a big lesson, basically building the product before the audience. I think that's a common mistake many people make. But I don't know if it would have been written, honestly, if I didn't do that. I just had the current passion, the current need, and sometimes when you're ready for something new, you can get it done. You just get in that zone, and I was in that zone. And that's another reason why maybe I didn't wait till I retired to write it, because maybe then I wouldn't have had the desire to write it, because I'm living the retirement life. So
sipping Mai Tais on the beach.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that was of course was hard. I don't have an audience. I guess I kind of expected more sales. I expected more people to be interested in this book. But no one knows me. I mean, I'm just a normal middle-class dude that loves finances. I'm a software developer. And before this, I wasn't really in that industry. So, that's been pretty hard, just learning marketing. I'm learning that writing the book was easier. Marketing the book is much harder.
So what are some things that you're doing to market? So when I wrote my first book, I think we made similar challenges, I think, but I think we've made $3,000 over time.
Oh, cool.
Maybe. But I haven't, maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. But like, what are some ways that you're now going to market that will get you more sales?
So the biggest thing I'm really trying to focus on is the podcast, growing that audience. I want people to, feel some credibility for me, and just feel that, I'm doing this just because this is what I'm doing. And I just want more people to do it. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of personal finance stuff out there. But it's either missing something. I wouldn't have wrote this if there was something that was an easier roadmap. So that's why I started the podcast. I really want to focus on that to try and get more people interested in the podcast. I'm also starting a mailing list where I'm able to give people more frugal tips and provide recommendations on frugal products that I use in my own life, to be able to give to them. So I'm working on getting people on that mailing list. I'm working on my Twitter. I want to provide value through Twitter. The biggest thing I learned, and this is I've kind of known from the past trying it, is I'm not a blogger. I don't like to write blog articles, but I like to talk to people. Yep. And I know I have all this content, and I can literally just write article after article and just paste it in there. But I just don't want to do it. It's not what I like to do. So my stream, or I want to talk to people, engage people, is through the podcast. And then I have my early retirement roadmap website, dedicated for the book, to tell you why I wrote it, why you should be interested in it. And then I'm trying to put more free value stuff out there. I have fireagecalc.com, yep, which is a tool I wrote just to estimate when you could retire early. That was a problem I saw. Like, whenever I see a problem, I just try to think of something easier for people to use. But literally, I was trying to figure out when I could retire early. There was another one out there. I think it's called firecalc.com, and there's some other simulation programs. But you have to enter like 20 fields or use like percentages and stuff. And it was too complex for me. And I literally, there's like 5 fields. That's all I need to enter. I need to have 5 concrete numbers. Here's how old I am. Here's how much I'm saving. Here's my expenses. Here's what I have now. When can I retire? Right. Yeah, and so that's why I wrote that. But so I'm just trying to put stuff out there. I'm trying to put value out there, get people interested, just show people that I'm just interested in helping and sharing my story.
So this whole time we've been talking about you retiring at 35. How much money do you need to retire at?
So I need about a little over I actually honestly only need $1 million to retire.
And where are you at now?
Just over $500,000.
And so in your calculator, you've learned that you'll get there in the next 5 years?
That's correct, yes. Yep.
And so what are some of the things that you are... Well, I think it's good to be transparent in that case, right? So people know, okay, $1 million is what I think I need to retire at. If you read his book at earlyretirementroadmap.com, you'll learn some of the strategies that he's using to be a little bit more frugal and figure out how to put more money towards something. When you buy a piece of gum at 7-Eleven or a pack of gum at 7-Eleven, how much it's really worth in the long run if you would have invested that. So by knowing that you need to get to that $1 million, what's going to stop you, I guess?
I don't think anything can stop me at this point. We've downsized our house. We live in an 845 square foot apartment with 2 kids, a dog, and a 100-pound dog, and a cat. So this is something we really want. And the $1 million is enough to cover my expenses for the rest of my life, because we reduced our life to the level we're content with, we're happy with. But I already know that it's gonna go beyond that.
Well,
Like,
that
I
money
already know.
continues to compound over time as well. It's not
Yeah,
like you're gonna pull everything out.
exactly. And the fact that I'm an entrepreneur, and I already know I'm gonna come up with something else that may produce some other passive income. My wife, we may get bored. If we want to go work at, I don't know, go work at the local surf shop, or whatever, the entertainment park, part time for fun. We
Sure.
can do that and make a little extra income. If we want to maybe put the kids through college at some point, and we don't have enough, then we could work a few hours here and there. We don't have to work full time. We can live wherever, do whatever we want, whenever we want. That's the whole concept behind this.
I love it. I think it's great. Sean Merron, appreciate your time. The Early Retirement Roadmap, you can find it out at earlyretirementroadmap.com, or check out fireagecalc.com to figure out when you can retire, or check out his podcast, twofrugaldudes.com. We'll put all that in the show notes as well. Sean, appreciate your time and continued success.
Great. Thanks. Good to be here.
Absolutely.